I believe what you said in this last one was unceasing prayer is born of love. Could you elaborate on the connection between the deep life of prayer that each one of us as Orthodox Christians is asked to partake in, and the command that Christ gives to us to love our neighbors as ourselves? The connection between the ascesis of prayer and also then the virtue of selfless love for others.
Not sure that I've understood that question. That might just be me. All right. But could you rephrase that?
Yeah, just the connection between the way that we connect with God in the deep moments of prayer in our lives, and then the way that we connect with God when we are giving of ourselves to our fellow human beings through whatever that may be. I'm thinking in my mind of Christ's command, love your neighbor as yourself, but also when he speaks of giving alms and that commandment that we have to literally love everybody. Could you speak to the connection that our prayer life has with our life of loving everybody around us, not just the people in church, but the people in the world as a whole?
Yes. Well, I think we touched on that, right? In other words, the closer we come to God, the closer we come to one another. Because the closer we come to God, the clearer we see our kinship with all other human beings. And so we grow, I hope this isn't too abstract, we grow as we practice, love thy God, the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy mind, and with all thy soul. We see that is one side. These are two sides of the same coin. Loving thy neighbor as thyself, loving God with all your heart and with all your soul.
I can throw out a thought. Would that be like St. Theodoros, the wheel?
Yes.
Christ, and the closer we got to Christ, the spokes got closer to each other.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the analogy from Dorotheus of Gaza? So the closer we get to God, the closer we get to one another. But let me say this, because it's in St. Gregory Palamas's second homily on the entry of the Mother of God into the Holy of Holies, where he presents the Mother of God as the greatest hesychast of all, because she practiced prayer and stillness in the temple from the tender age of 3, and she reached deification, glorification, the likeness with Christ. So he says that she discovered in herself her deep heart, and in her deep heart she discovered her kinship with all of mankind, and that this was the reason why, since that time, she began to intercede for the whole world as for herself. You see how that worked? How she became closer to God. As she became closer to God, she discovered her kinship with the whole Adam. And she prayed for the whole Adam as for herself. Take a look at that homily if you like. It's homily 53 in the complete edition. And it's truly a remarkable, it's probably St. Gregory's best known work.
Yeah. I have a general feeling from your presentation that it's a little too theoretical. We don't live in monasteries. We don't live in the desert. We don't live at Mount Athos. We live in the world where every single day we're facing life. It just so happens, and I'm just using my own personal experience. I guess I'm what you would call a social activist. All my ministry, I've been interested in making this a better world. Not that I succeeded, but I'm saying my focus has been in that area. And although I appreciate what you're saying from the theoretical point of view and the inner life, etc., which obviously is very important, I think when you speak to a group like this, we are not monks. We are not ascetics. I think most of us here are not. I guess we need to be a little more reassured
Yes,
that
yes,
the theoretical things you're teaching us
yes,
do have a practical
yes.
implication.
Yes, I understand where you're coming from, Father, and I would agree with you that we're not monks, and I hope that anything I have said has not indicated that I would suggest that we become monks. Although if you were to become monks, or one of you, whoever, that's a blessing. But we have, all of us, each and every one of us, has been called to be ascetics. That's the difference. We're not all monks, but we are all ascetics. Father Sophrony used to define asceticism as spiritual labors. And spiritual labors, he would say, means living the commandments of Christ. And each and every one of us has been called to live the commandments of Christ. When Christ says, "Be ye perfect as your Father which is in heaven is perfect," he's not speaking just to monks. He's not even speaking just to his apostles. He's speaking to them and through them to all of us. Now, I would like to say something about social activism, because Father gives me a wonderful opportunity to do so. We have to be aware of something profoundly true, and that is that anything that we do as Orthodox Christians, indeed as human beings, anything that we do that alleviates the suffering of our fellow human being is praiseworthy and is well-pleasing to God. But there is something that we often forget as we are engaged in activism of that kind, and that is that there is what the Orthodox Church is offering us is how to overcome death. How to overcome death and suffering. That which the incorruptible consolation of the grace of God. In other words, if you feed the poor, which is a great thing, it's a gospel precept, all right? It's a wonderful thing to feed the poor, but they will be hungry again. If you clothe the naked, do that. If you have the opportunity to do it. It's very important. But there will be naked in this world. Why? Because of the human predicament. Because of passions. Because of greed. But there is something which the Church gives, which Christ gives, which cannot be taken away from us. And that is how to overcome death, the resurrection. And that is the greatest thing that we have to offer. We're not naive. We know that the poor need to be helped. And perhaps it's fair to say that the Orthodox should do that more. Perhaps we don't give enough emphasis to those things. Some do, but perhaps we should do that more. But there is something which we must be aware of, and that is that Christ said, I am the life and the resurrection. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Overcoming death. Overcoming death. Christ trampled down death by death. And if you can give that to your brother, to your sister, that is a great thing.
Doctor, we have two outstanding examples in our times. We have the example of Mother Teresa, who prayed 4 hours a day, incidentally, and certainly had as much a belief in the resurrection and life after death as anybody. And we have the example of Mother Gavrila, who was sort of another Mother Teresa, an activist in the world, but, traveled to monasteries and places and developing her spiritual life. I like everything that you said, and I think that the final answer is somewhat, it's a combination of these two things. It's a combination of the practical activist, social activist kind of outreach, as well as the inner life, which you're talking about, and developing the spirit and maintaining the hope for eternal life, the resurrection, etc. We parish priests preach that all the time. We preach the practical things, but simultaneously, we do appreciate Easter, and we appreciate the period of Lent, because it puts that great emphasis
Yes.
on the inner life and anticipation of death and